you just woke up. You feel well rested, energized, like you've been reset to go through your day. People are coming at you with different energy levels, with lots of questions, and instead of feeling overwhelmed or moody, you actually are able to listen and give rational responses and feel like you're in a pleasant mood. You go through your day and you don't need a nap a few hours later. In fact, 3 to 5 hours later, you're still feeling strong. You feel physically reset, mentally capable, and emotionally in tune. Does that sound like you? If not, then you may need to work on your sleep. So stick with me here, and I'm going to review 5 tips on things you can do to help optimize your sleep. But before I get started, I want to give you a little bit of background. You see, a few years ago, I would sleep 10, 12, if not more hours, and I would still wake up exhausted. I would try and use my brain and it just wouldn't work. I would spend most of my day just dreaming and fantasizing about going back to sleep because that is the only thing that was hopeful for me. And the irony of that is I'd go to sleep and I would be in that same vicious cycle because I never really felt rested. If you can relate to that, then that is a surefire sign that you do need to work on your sleep. All right, so I was getting plenty of hours of sleep. So focusing on how much sleep I was getting wasn't the thing. I needed to focus on optimizing my sleep. So what does that really mean? Well, when I say optimal sleep, I'm talking about the phases of sleep. You want to get through all the phases of sleep at the right time of night and stay in those phases for the appropriate amount of time. If you want to know more about the science or just more information about what are these phases, how long, all of that, then I encourage you to get Dr. Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep. Again, the book is Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. He'll take you through all different facets of sleep. He's well researched, all of that, and he gives great analogies, so it's a good read. All right, one more thing before we get going is I'm going to say things like stop or refrain from this. When I say that, I want you to think about what can I do to replace that, because rebuilding habits is not about stopping anything. It's about replacing and instilling new habits that are going to fuel a healthy lifestyle. So let's get going with tip number 1, and that is light. When I'm talking about light right now, I mean just light in general. You want your room to be as dark as possible. Light can be stimulating, and in particular, blue light. So blue light comes from any type of a device or screen that you're using. Now, you want to stop using any screens about 2 to 3 hours before bed. I know, hold up, that may seem a little overwhelming, or you might be saying, I'm not going to do that. I don't blame you one bit, especially if you were someone like me who used to watch have TV playing throughout the whole night because it helped me sleep. It might feel that way, and it might seem like that is genuinely true for you. I get it. However, blue light is really stimulating for the brain, and while you can fall asleep and stay asleep, it's actually throwing a wrench in those sleep phases or the duration of those phases. Therefore, your sleep is actually compromised. So it's not just, again, about falling asleep or staying asleep. It's about the quality of it. So it's not an all or nothing thing. If you're that person who uses a device even after you're sleeping, it's still going, just know that you can take it one step at a time. What I did is I started out by stopping my screens at bedtime. Once that wasn't so much of a struggle, I then moved to stopping them 10 minutes before bed, and then 30 minutes. And then now I stop my screens 2.5 hours before I go to bed. And the brilliant thing about that is I now have 2.5 more hours of life. So I get a lot more done. I have more opportunity to have that social connection or just really decompress and do what I need to do to get recentered. All right, tip number 2 is, what are you using your bedroom for? There's only 2 purposes for a bedroom. 1 is for sleep, 2 is for intimacy. That's it. So if you're doing things like working in bed, reading in bed, doing crosswords in bed, watching TV in bed, whatever that may be, take that outside the bedroom. You see, our brains are very reliant on our habits and our routines, so it knows what to do next. What we do triggers our next neural responses. So if you're thinking, okay, I have a full household and this is my bedroom's the only place where I can actually get alone time or decompress, I'm with you here, okay? I actually am in that same kind of environment. So here's what I did. I found a spot as far away from my bed as possible. Yes, I'm still in my room, but I'm as far away from my bed as possible. I have my chair and I have a little TV tray that I can take out when I need to hold my books or write on. And that's what I found works for me. If you have an even better idea, please put it in the comments, because while that is helpful, my idea is helpful, it's still not optimal. So I love new suggestions. All right, tip number 3. This one can be a little touchy for people, but it's caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant. Now, I get it. I used to drink caffeine all the way up until bedtime too. You might say it doesn't affect my sleep at all, but if you're waking up and you're kind of like me, you're still feeling exhausted, or maybe you're moody, or you just physically don't feel well, anything like that, and that's saying that maybe it's time to stop the caffeine earlier in the day. Ideally, you would want to stop before noon and maybe even earlier for some people. However, some of us can get away with stopping around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Now, again, think about replacing it. So if you want another hot or cold beverage, is there something else out there like an herbal tea or some type of sparkling water, something that can help you with that. All right, tip number 4 has to do with food, and that is refrain from eating 2 to 3 hours before bed. Yes, 2 to 3 hours before bed, you don't want to have any food, no snacking, no meals. The reason for that is, again, when you're going to bed, your brain is shifting its focus. It's winding down. It's already wound down by that time for sleep, and it wants to go into the sleep phases. However, when you eat, your brain's like, sorry guys, we gotta focus on digestion right now. We'll get to that later if we can. So digestion is something that you want to have done before you go to bed. Hence, nothing to eat 2 to 3 hours before bed. All right, tip number 5. This is for those of you who feel like you have a hamster wheel in your brain, right? You try to go to bed or you wake up in the middle of the night and your brain's just going and going and going. It doesn't seem like it'll shut off. Well, this is actually likely correlated to stress. So it can help to do what we call brain dumping. Get a journal out and just start writing everything that's going on in your head. Just get it out. It doesn't matter if your grammar's there, if you're spelling things correctly, if you have a well-structured sentence, or if it makes sense to anyone else. It doesn't matter. Just get the words out. If you have a very demanding lifestyle, and you have a lot on your plate and that's feeling overwhelming to you, make a to-do list when you're doing your brain dump, and then prioritize that list. You want to get the things that are truly urgent and necessary to get done that day. You want that at the top of your list so you can get the hardest thing out of the way at the beginning of the day. Then all of the other things where it doesn't make that big of a difference if you get it done or not, you can either delegate that stuff or you can move it to the next day's schedule. All right, guys, these are just some of the tips. There's so much more that you can do to help improve your sleep. Again, look into Dr. Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep. You can get lots more information there. And if you like this video, please let us know and subscribe. Comment below if there's any other video or tips that you want us to make. We actually review our our comments, so we are here to serve you. All right, have a happy sleep tonight and a great rest of your day.